Most people think respect is about what you say, but in reality, respect is decided long before you open your mouth. It happens in quiet moments, in subtle exchanges, in small psychological tests people throw at you to see what kind of man you really are. And the truth is, people are testing you far more often than you realize. At work, in relationships, in friendships. Even strangers sometimes do it without thinking. They are watching your reactions, measuring your confidence, probing for weakness, because human beings are constantly trying to understand where everyone fits in the social hierarchy, who leads, who follows, who can be pushed, and who cannot. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They knew that the world is full of hidden challenges to your composure and authority. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that you will meet people today who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, and deceitful. But the true test is not their behavior. The test is your response. Because the moment you lose control of yourself, you lose power. And the moment you remain calm, people notice. So in this video, we're going to break down 6 psychological tricks people use to test you. Once you start seeing them, you'll never unsee them again. And more importantly, you'll know exactly how to respond without losing your composure or your respect. The first psychological trick people use to test you is subtle disrespect disguised as a joke. This is one of the oldest social tests in the book. Someone makes a small comment about you, a sarcastic remark, a harmless joke at your expense, something that can always be brushed off with the phrase, "Relax, I'm only joking." But this is rarely just humor. It is a probe, a small social experiment to see how you react. If you laugh nervously, apologize, or try too hard to prove yourself, the message is clear. You can be pushed, but if you stay calm, acknowledge the comment without insecurity, or simply let the silence hang in the air, the dynamic changes instantly. The Stoics believed that a man who cannot be emotionally provoked becomes extremely difficult to manipulate. Epictetus said that when someone insults you, remember that they are revealing their own character, not yours. And when you refuse to react emotionally to these small tests, people quickly learn that you are not someone who can be easily shaken. The second psychological trick is interruption. This one happens constantly in conversations. You begin speaking, and someone cuts you off mid-sentence. They start talking over you, redirecting the conversation, or dismissing your point before you finished explaining it. Now, sometimes this happens accidentally, but often it's another quiet test. They want to see whether you will shrink back and give up your space, or whether you will calmly hold your ground. Weak reactions usually look like nervous laughter, backing down immediately, or apologizing for speaking. Strong reactions look very different. You simply continue speaking, or you calmly say, "Let me finish." No aggression, no emotional reaction, just quiet authority. The Stoics understood that authority is not built through loudness. It is built through presence, through the ability to hold your frame even when others try to disrupt it. The man who calmly finishes what he started sends a powerful signal without raising his voice. The third psychological test is deliberate delay. Someone ignores your message for days. A colleague delays responding to something important. A person keeps you waiting or constantly reschedules plans. On the surface, it looks like poor organization. But sometimes it is another subtle test. They want to see if you become anxious, if you chase, if you start over explaining yourself or seeking approval. But the Stoic response is different. Instead of chasing attention or validation, you maintain your own rhythm. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself not to waste energy worrying about what others are doing. You focus on your own actions and your own standards. And something interesting happens when you do this. The people who are testing you begin to realize that your behavior cannot be controlled by small social games. And the moment people realize they cannot control your emotional state, they start treating you very differently. The fourth psychological trick people use is the prove yourself trap. This happens when someone subtly challenges your competence or authority. They might say something like, "Are you sure you know how to do that?" Or, "That doesn't sound right." Now again, sometimes these questions are genuine, but often they are designed to see whether you panic and start desperately defending yourself. Many people fall straight into this trap. They over-explain, they talk too much, they rush to prove their intelligence or capability. But the Stoics taught something very powerful. Confidence rarely needs to shout. Often it simply states the truth and moves on. When someone challenges you unnecessarily, the strongest response is often calm certainty. You answer briefly, clearly, and without emotional investment. You don't perform for their approval, because the moment you stop trying to convince everyone, you become far more convincing. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and these ideas resonate with you, take a moment to leave a like. It really helps the channel reach more people who are interested in psychology and ancient wisdom. And if you want more content like this, consider subscribing and joining the growing community here. We've recently passed over 1,000 people exploring these ideas together, and it's been incredible to see the discussions happening in the comments. So if something in this video stands out to you, I'd genuinely like to hear your thoughts down below. The fifth psychological test is emotional provocation. This one is extremely common, especially in workplaces and relationships. Someone makes a comment designed to irritate you. They question your decisions. They exaggerate a mistake. They say something unfair or provocative just to see if they can trigger a reaction. Because when you react emotionally, they learn something important. They learn that they can control your emotional state. But when you stay calm, the dynamic flips completely. The Stoics believed emotional self-control was the ultimate form of strength. Seneca wrote that the greatest power a person can possess is mastery over themselves. When someone tries to provoke you, and you simply remain composed, you quietly demonstrate that your behavior is not controlled by other people's moods or opinions. And strangely enough, people often respect you more after they fail to provoke you. The sixth psychological trick is the comparison test. Someone casually compares you to another person. You know, John handles this better, or most people would have done it differently. On the surface, it sounds like harmless commentary. But psychologically, this is often used to see if you will become defensive or insecure. Many people immediately fall into comparison mode. They begin explaining themselves, criticizing others, or trying to compete. But the Stoics warned against this mindset thousands of years ago. They believed that comparing yourself constantly to others destroys inner stability. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. When someone tries to drag you into comparison, the Stoic response is simple. You stay grounded in your own values and actions. You do not compete for validation. And the moment you stop competing for approval, people begin to see you differently. What makes these psychological tests so powerful is that they often happen quietly. There is rarely a dramatic confrontation. Instead, there are small moments, subtle behaviors, casual comments. And in those moments, people are watching your reactions more closely than your words. They are observing whether you become defensive, anxious, apologetic, or reactive, or whether you remain calm, steady, and composed. The Stoics believe that true strength is revealed not in grand gestures, but in everyday interactions, in the ability to remain grounded even when others are uncertain, disrespectful, or provocative. Because when you control your reactions, you control the situation. And here is the deeper truth most people eventually learn. Many of these tests are unconscious. People are not always sitting there planning how to challenge you. Human beings naturally test boundaries because we are wired to understand social dynamics. But once people realize that their small tests do not affect your behavior, something interesting happens. They stop testing, they stop pushing, and they start treating you with a different kind of respect. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet recognition that you are someone who cannot be easily manipulated. So the next time someone interrupts you, makes a subtle joke at your expense, tries to provoke you emotionally, or challenges you unnecessarily, remember this. It may not just be a random interaction. It may be a small psychological test. And the outcome of that test is decided not by your words, but by your composure. The Stoics spent centuries mastering this skill, not because they wanted to dominate others, but because they understood a simple truth about human nature. The person who cannot be controlled emotionally becomes extremely difficult to disrespect. If any of these tests sound familiar to you, let me know in the comments which one you've experienced the most. I read a lot of the comments, and it's always interesting to see how these dynamics play out in real life. And if this video gave you something useful to think about, leave a like so more people can discover it. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons about human behavior were written thousands of years ago, and yet they still apply perfectly to the world we live in today.